I'd like to call this meeting to order. If everyone will stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chris Buckman.
Here.
Brandon Earl.
Here.
Andrea Kreifels.
Here.
Jason Newberry. Deanna Garver.
Here.
Tom Henning.
Here.
Pat Zika.
Here. Adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Can we pull out something? Adam going to the conference. Can we pull that out? Talk about it later. I'm not sure how you do that.
Do you want to make it like separate,
I just don't want like this in this,
like just in the discussion? Or where do you want it?
I don't know where you put it, we pull it out.
You would make a
The registry,
motion
yeah.
to pull it out and put it in as a discussion item, and then
Okay.
Russ, am I right? Pull it out, put it, set it as a discussion item, and then the board would vote on that move in the meeting.
The board doesn't have to vote on it, if I want to take it out or not.
I think so.
Yeah, we would.
No, well,
You can't adopt the agenda, or you can't modify the agenda on your own. You have to have a majority of the board to support you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right.
I was thinking,
So we got a
I
motion
wanna
to
make a
adopt the
motion that-
agenda.
so what do we do next?
Is there a second to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a second.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All those in
So do I
favor?
make my motion now, or? Okay, I make a motion on top of his
I think
motion.
there's
that
one already on the floor.
Right.
We have to
Yeah.
vote on that one now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, Russ.
No, that's correct.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No. Not working.
I'm not gonna, I'll vote no. I'm not gonna, if someone wants to amend the agenda, I'm not gonna walk them from it.
So was it 3-3?
Yeah.
So that's a no.
Right.
Okay, so
Now, Pat, you can make your motion to amend the agenda
Okay.
to,
I make a motion to amend the agenda by taking out, the superintendent's trip to California, I think,
okay. Are you wanting to move it as a discussion?
to the discussion item.
Second.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
5-1.
Okay.
So that becomes 2.8.
That will become 2.8.
Okay, recognition of patrons and staff.
Nobody this evening, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, making notes.
You're fine. On to discussion items, the Wellington High School greenhouse bids.
Yes, this evening, as you know, our lovely greenhouse that Mrs. Chase was her baby for a long time, sustained some damage in a storm, and so the discussion since then has been not only obviously putting that back together for Linda and our students, but also there's been talk about changing the greenhouse construction and how that would be rebuilt, and so. Bids were sent out based off of that, and so Linda is here to discuss that this evening. And those bids are in your packet. Jump on it.
Thank you. So originally we got 4 bids to kind of get the process started and going through. There were only 3 bids then in the final submission. So these 3 of 2 of the bids, they are what we call a Conley building. So Conley is a greenhouse manufacturing company out of California. And so those buildings would definitely be identical. The outlier to an extent, is Stuppy. It would still be the same size, 30-foot wide, 72 feet long. The new greenhouse will be more, better suited for our area in that it's going to be going north-south instead of east-west and catching all of those north winds on the long side. It's now gonna catch the winds on the short side. So that'll be a lot better for us in the long run. Stuppy, like I said, is different in that it is manufactured out of Kansas City. So it is the most expensive of all the three bids, but that would be constructed by, all the pieces and parts would be there in Kansas City. The pieces and parts for the other one, we would have to kind of, whenever we had the issue with the roof, a few years back, we had to wait for those parts and pieces to come out of California to get here. So there's kind of that. In the bids, I would recommend, at this point in time, I was early on, in discussion, I was really, kind of excited about the one bid from Taylor Jackson. But I think now that he's kind of redone this and we've gotten updated information from Stuppy and American Greenhouse or American Plant Products, to me, those two are kind of the top runners. There's a big difference in just the base model bid from those two. Jackson was kind of the middle ground. So the one thing that I've worked with American Plant Products ever since I started here 15 years. They worked with us even prior before that. They've been the ones that we've always contacted and always had really, pretty quick response trying to fix roofs, fix things, get things done. So they have a base bid. Their base bid comes in at, I think, $107,179. So that'd be the 30 by 72 with, the things that we were looking for as far as being attached to the building. They actually had one of their, Sergio, who is head of their building teams. They are on a project in North Dakota right now, but he stopped on his way to North Dakota this morning to take a look at everything. His biggest concern right now, and he said no matter who you go with, there's gonna have to be some concrete work done. We're going to have to do some piers where the posts are gonna go every 12 feet. And so there is going to be an added cost for concrete to get that done. He said basically, we're gonna just cut holes, drill those holes, fill them with concrete, and then we can do a pier there for each one. And Mike came by, thankfully, just happened to stop by at the right time, Clifton, and so he was like, he goes, we could probably do that maintenance wise. We could probably do that. Sergio was like, it has to be square. The building has to be square. And Mike was like, okay. I was like, has to be square. So that would have to be an added cost either way you go with either one of those. Rod from American Plant Products did add us some options in this final bid that we had not put in. His bid does include the outer shade cloth covering, which would be a manual. We would have to get tractors and lifts to put it up and put it across the roof on the outside of the building. But he did offer an option of a motorized shade system, and he said it's got to go in when we are putting this building up. He says otherwise it's not gonna happen. It's not a to do later. So you can see that the motorized shade system with the energy curtain is an extra $24,000 on top of his $107,000. The final bid for Stuppy is like $123,000. So, and then we would have plumbing and electricity to finish, which that was something, we also are gonna have to lower the gas lines because of the 10-foot wall. That was something that we looked at today, which is going to be elbowing them down about 1 foot. So, which shouldn't be too difficult to get done. but then the building will match right up to the main building, so.
How big is the current
The
greenhouse that
current
we're
is
waiting?
30 by 50.
Okay.
Yeah, current's 30 by 50.
Which do you prefer?
I'm torn, to be honest, between the two. Steppy has a fabulous reputation. I mean, they're a great company. They've been in business for years, kind of family owned. Everything's coming out of Kansas City. So everything is gonna be pretty quick to get ready and to get done. They are gonna be the ones that would probably be able, I know he didn't include it in this, but in phone conversations, he said he could probably start between Thanksgiving and Christmas and have us up and running mid-January or by the end of January, which would put us a few weeks behind, but not bad. American Plant Services is not. It is going to, we're gonna be lucky if they are here by February to get started, and so we're looking at March before, we would possibly be operating. And that's, that's a big, that's a huge difference, especially for, for my students, because right now we're, we have lots of plants to go through and to take cuttings on, but we can't start any of them because they don't grow really well.
So are you saying there won't be a plant sale this spring?
That is gonna be a very, very big, huge possibility, yes, yes. So, unless I can kind of, if we go with Steppy, there's gonna be a plant sale, it might be a little toned back, but we'll definitely have one. American Plant Products is going to be iffy, as to what the schedule is like, so, yeah.
Where did you say American Plant Products was that?
They are out of Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma.
They are in North Dakota right now building a USDA facility. So, and he said he's hating it because he's built another USDA facility in Bismarck, North Dakota. And they were like, here's the keys, get it done, lock up at night. This one, they may only work from 8 to 5. Monday through Friday, and that is it. No overtime, no weekends, nothing. And so he said it is slow and everything is having to be inspected every inch of the way. And I was like, what are they growing in that? Man. So it's a huge difference. So yeah, I would love to have a motorized shade cloth that would be controlled by its own little self, because the motorized shade cloths also can be on a timer. So that means, they can go out, whenever I'm not there. They can come back, retract in the morning early when I'm not there. The big thing is there's gonna be an irrigation system no matter what, which I'll have a spring break again and some weekends back, which will be lovely. And that was the one thing that both of them cautioned me about. They were like, don't depend on it like every single day. I was like, oh no, kids have to do that. But they were like weekends, breaks, they're like, that's gonna be when you're really gonna see them. So, and when we're doing fertilizer injections and stuff like that. So, like I said, I'm good with either way you guys want to go with either one of these companies. I think both of them will do a good job. 2 different timelines and 2 different ballpark prices. So that's where we're at on that. Sorry, I can't be of more decisive help in a way.
The sooner we decide, the better.
Well, yes, so we have to really make a decision on this to get it going. Because the sooner we can make a decision, then the sooner they can start ordering and manufacturing pieces and parts and getting it shipped. Because that's gonna be a big thing. I know that when we had to redo the roof, there was it was so far behind for American Plant Products getting the polycarbonate shipped out of California, that it was literally a slow boat from China to get that stuff in. And so it was months in the waiting for that to happen. So that could be still a little bit, probably not as bad as it once was. I don't know if Steppies polycarbonate comes from the same manufacturer, because I'm sure they do not manufacture that, they just manufacture all of the uprights in the frame. So, but they'll still have to wait for that polycarbonate to come in, which is gonna take a few weeks for that polycarbonate to come in.
So funding wise, you have $96,000 or just under $96,000 from the Patterson grant that you approved last board meeting. And that would go towards this, and then $8,000, a little over from the Perkins grant. And so you have most by far of the project paid just within grant money on whatever your decision is. And then anything else would come out of capital outlay on top of that. But from the prices you're looking at, all that money would be grant money as far as the $104,000 I just mentioned.
So 26,000 you say here is, 26,000 from capital outlay, but then you have, in quotes, you have whatever parentheses, the amount insurance quoted as to fix the old greenhouse. So is that, the 26,000, is that from the insurance? But
No,
we-
that is what
Have
we,
it in
that's
capital
what the insurance said that it would cost to fix the old greenhouse if we would have fixed it back to the way it was. And so we had that budgeted to the side as, this is what we use, that was pre the grant talk and all that
Right.
stuff coming in. So I was just letting the board know.
So is there insurance
information.
receipt?
There is a very small insurance because of the deductible was so high on it, so very small, it's like,
$1,600
or something like that. Cause there's a
What's our deductible?
giant 25,000.
25,000.
When
Whoa.
damage, 25,000.
Yeah.
Big deductible.
So just so you're aware that the most of it is paid for with grant money.
So what would we do for the concrete? Does that need to be
Concrete,
separate?
plumbing, and electricity
All
is
of
going
those
to
would-
be
yes.
on
And your,
top.
and your cover thing.
It's going to be extra past this 123 or this 107.
Did you say the person that you were sharing the information about the concrete pad said that no matter who you go with, there's gotta be a concrete pad?
It's going to have the piers underneath in order to support all of the weight, which you wouldn't think that it would be, but my boys are finding out right now in that we're building little small covers to go over our greenhouses with the material that blew off the roof. That it actually has some weight to it. So once you put all of that on there and the weight of just the material and the metal, then he doesn't want to trust it to sitting on 4 inches of concrete. He wants it deeper, and he said you're gonna have it no matter what. So
Is this gonna be concrete floor?
it already is concrete
But
floor,
we're
and so
turning it
yes,
though.
and it'll still be on concrete
Okay,
because the concrete is already laid because it's already a 4-inch. It connects all the way through to the parking lot.
so when we turn it, there's existing concrete there.
There's
Okay, I can-
existing concrete.
gotcha.
So the concrete that we're gonna need is going to be every 12 foot for about a 18 to 24-inch circle.
Yep.
That's gonna be about 4 foot, I think, deep, is roughly what he said. So you're not talking a lot of concrete, but you're talking a fair amount. The more probably is gonna be just cutting the squares, making sure the building is set up square, that the piers are where they need to be, and the holes are there to fill them up with concrete, so.
So is this something that we could approve the greenhouse by itself and then get quotes or
Yeah,
whatever
we
we need
would
for the
have
concrete
maintenance
on the
reach out
side?
on the other things.
But then we could go ahead, but we could be getting this ordered and.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Correct.
And then the other thing too, I think with the greenhouse is just okaying it so that maintenance can start tearing it down. Because that is the other thing, is that the old greenhouse house has to come down.
What was I'm sorry, I spaced out. What was the problem with the third bid? We had American Greenhouse, we had Stuppy, and what was the?
It is Jackson. So it's a Conley building. It really is the exact same thing as what American Plant Products is offering, but it's about $8,000 less. I mean, theirs is $8,000 more than American Plant Products.
Okay.
So, it's gonna be the exact same building, he's just charging more to build it, and so I just kind of personally ruled him out, just simply because of that. it's gonna be the same building, same
Yeah.
everything, you know.
But can we do that? And we
Well, I
have a
don't-
little bit of
you
an
guys-
issue with,
Oh,
we have to take the
bids.
lowest bid is, unless there's a delivery, which Stuppy obviously can meet the delivery of that one, but where does this other company come in as far as delivery? Cause we have to have a justified reason for not taking the lowest bid.
The lowest bid, oh, guys, I see what you're saying.
I have no problem, we have to justify it, and
Sure.
we can justify it with lead time, like, we can obviously get you a greenhouse faster going with Stuppy.
Right.
But I don't know where the cheaper company comes in as far as lead time
So
with
there's,
the other,
so that would be the American Plant Products would be the next cheapest, or is the cheapest
right,
bid.
but they're months out, right, we have to rule them out.
They're ruled out, they're gonna be months out. The other one,
That's the Jackson one.
is the Jackson, he did not give me a timeline.
Okay,
So I'm going to assume that he's still gonna probably be a couple months out, but I went through to try to find it. And I know at one point in time, he told me possibly around Christmas, but I don't
It's the
know.
exact same building
He
for
didn't.
$8,000 more.
Then American Plant
yeah, but
Products.
see, the whole problem is we have to take the
Right.
lowest bid
Yeah.
Right.
unless the delivery is what,
The delivery
So-
time.
we have to consider this bid, if we don't have a lead time, we can get in trouble if we don't.
So he did not provide a lead time. I mean, I can try to contact him.
It says January.
Doesn't it say estimated
Does it?
materials on site January 2024? Greenhouse installation process to take 3 to 4 weeks.
Maybe I
It's
looked
the
over
last
that.
page right above the signature lines.
Thank you, I was looking for that, I saw it earlier.
That's what I was
Instructions
trying to
and-
find earlier too, and I was just like, couldn't seem to find it. Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay. Yep. So, yep. So January, and so he would be done by the beginning of February as well.
So I think
So,
we're in a little bit of
so
a,
his would be real close to the Stuppy greenhouse then, timeline wise.
And where's it out of?
He's out of Kansas City as well. Yep. He was, I mean, dealing with him early on, Mr. Hatfield can tell you, he was probably the one that I really rooted for the most. Simply because he was the fastest at getting me a bid back. He was the quickest, when I first started getting bids and trying to get, he was the first one to have something to me. He was very, kept in great communication with me and just really, had some great ideas and was really helpful and everything. So, and he offered to send somebody, to take a look at the site ahead of time. He said, if we get the bid, we definitely will. He says, I'll make the trip down and look at it and everything. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the building that he is, because like I said, it's the exact same as the American Plant product, so.
Rhonda, I think
you
I
know.
understand. Is that one you're talking about now?
Mhm.
$8,000 more than the other two?
It's $8,000 more than the lowest bid.
so it's the number 2 bid.
This is number 2 bid.
Okay.
So, if you rank them, most expensive is Stuppy, and then Jackson, and then American Plant.
And Jackson is the exact same as,
American Plant. I mean, it'll
that's
be
where my mix.
it'll be a Conley made building. So yeah. And it'll have the irrigation in it, the cooling cell pad in it. It will, it'll be the exact same. So yeah. Just on a much quicker timeline than
Yeah.
American Plant.
So we got 2 similar quotes with 2 very similar lead times, basically.
Yes.
And when do you say American Plant could start?
It was
Is it-
probably going to be early February before they could get started.
Because it says 3 to 4 months, and if you're looking at 3 to 4 months, it'd be basically January,
Mhm.
close to February.
3 to 4 months is
Jackson says January.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, it's pretty close.
too close.
And I know that with, like I said, with American Plant Products, Rod, who is the owner of that, has, been calling and asking, and like I said, sent by a guy today to take a look at the pad. That's when we kind of found out a little bit more about the concrete and the piers. So, yeah, I mean, 2 to 4 months after the plans are approved. So at the latest. So if we got this to him, so November, December, January, kind of into January, beginning of February, as possibly December, So,
Well, we've got 130 and he's at 107 and we have all this extra work to do
Yeah, as far as budgeting.
as far as budget. I think
Right.
that's one makes the most sense.
The second one,
107, the lowest bid.
But the
Which
lowest
is the
bid's gonna
American
put us.
you won't get it in time, I mean, it'll be
Not
late,
in time.
it will arrive later.
it'll arrive a little bit later possibly. So, yeah, I mean, the earliest that he could get 2 to 4, if he was able to start in 2 months, it would be December,
Yeah.
So, if it went long, then we're looking late January, early February, so, it's still not bad. And like I said, they've been a great company to work with over the time, and I know that I won't lose them as our supplier, so it's just kind of going through.
What do they not have that the others do in your building? I mean, is there something that they're cheaper because they don't have XYZ or?
Nope, everything's in here. It has the irrigation system in it. It has the external shade cloth, which is what everybody else is doing. Same size, cooling cell, heaters, half fans. So,
And they'll install your shade to go down, your electronic shade that you want?
only if we pay for it.
Okay,
It's an
but they do
extra
have it though for
24,000.
them.
It's an extra 24,000 and that's gonna put them way over.
For the building, they're 107,
Mhm.
which is matching up with Jackson.
Which is matching up with
Steppy.
Jackson and Steppy on the side, yep. And they all would have external shade cloths.
Yeah.
So, and I have
He
students,
just offered,
so,
Remote,
yeah, he offered some options.
just offered options.
Just to
too.
kind of, just in the event there was, interest in those, he took the time to offer those up. So, that's why he put them on there, just as options. If you guys, he said if you go to the board and they have extra money, then great, take it. Get it all automated, So, if not, well, you have students.
Okay, so we're back to the lowest bid,
Except
right?
with bricks.
Which is what we started.
And then the chief.
Yeah, that's good.
So they have to understand that.
That's one of those things, it'll probably be put on spring, and then run through the summer and then take it off in the fall, so that we can use it and keep it nice year after year.
Okay, this is just a discussion item, but. Anybody wanna- We definitely need to get bids or whatever for the concrete.
If we wanna, I hate to say this, if we wanna set this as a special meeting after we get those numbers, so we can get it approved and get it rolling, or do you want to, I wanna wait a month on it.
Or do you wanna take and approve the
Either
greenhouse
building,
and get the
anything.
greenhouse done and then do bids on that concrete? Because that's the big thing, is that they won't order supplies or start making anything until this comes back to them. And the longer this takes to get back to them, then that's gonna keep pushing the date off.
And no matter what building you go with, you need all that stuff,
Right.
so.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you're
just
gonna have
really
to
wish we
have
would have
that.
had all of the numbers tonight.
If I remember the concrete and everything.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I get what you're
Well,
saying, if it comes in at $20,000 for the concrete and electrical, now our
Mhm.
budget is now.
Yeah.
Overnighters, that's why I was asking if we can just do a special meeting, that way we feel.
Our thought process was, and right or wrong, our thought process was, once we get the company, then we could have them working with the concrete people and all that, so we were waiting for, that relationship, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we'd probably use local people for that, but then they could be in talks and all that, so that's why we didn't have that for you.
And if you
But
need
we
it
can bring
anyway, you gotta
Yeah.
have it regardless.
Yep.
And so, we want the building ordered.
The big thing too is that all of them would like to have whoever is doing the plumbing, who is ever doing the electricity there when they are putting the building up, to at least check in. Because all of them said, if they are here, we can show them shortcuts. If they come in after we're gone, then you're on your own. Well, I don't wanna be on my own. Because California is a long way away because no matter what, the Link 4 system, the iGrow system is out of California. And I just get, okay, we're gonna send you an email. When you work through all of those things, call us back. So I would like to have,
I'm gonna make
Make
a
sure
motion
that there's
that we go with the lowest bid, if that's good, I mean, I think that's
That'd be American plant.
the American plant for the greenhouse to replace the one that was damaged in a storm.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed?
okay.
Okay,
no, I'm good. Get on that.
And then we can get all of the other
People, local
People-
people that come in.
to come in and we'll get quotes on those and, because those shouldn't, I think the concrete would be the most expensive and the last time we had, I'll talk with Renee on who we had coming in to do the floor, to put in all the concrete in the greenhouse. Because that was local and that was, I mean, even the concrete company cut us a deal on the concrete, so I'll get with her to find out who that is.
Okay.
So that we can kind of get an
There's a
idea
couple
from them.
different options, so.
Thanks for all your research and, you know, that wasn't just an overnight job, so.
No, it was fun to get to talk to them and find out a little bit more too whenever I was doing that, so. Ready to go to the next one?
Yep.
I'm not
Thank
gonna
you.
walk
Thank
way
you.
too long.
You might as well just stop there.
No stay.
Where's my agenda at?
okay, district vehicles.
Alright. So two district vehicles that, we're kind of needing as a district for two purposes. And Linda's gonna be excited about this. This is one that she and I have talked about for a long time. Too long, I mean, you got that.
Too long.
Yeah. So one of them is a personal, more like a minivan style, ADA vehicle, to support our students that have, mobility needs. And we end up in a lot of situations where we have a student that is using a wheelchair or has other mobility needs that we end up, the only way that we have as a district that we can transport them right now is through our Durham, through the bus service, which they've been great partners on that. We've been able to pull all of that off. But a lot of times there are times where we just need a small vehicle to transport. We don't need an entire bus and we end up using buses, paying for buses to do that on those occasions. And so been kind of saving up for this and talking to Darcy, we feel comfortable moving forward with that. And then the second vehicle, so currently there is Big Red, the old ag truck that Linda's been driving across the globe
Yeah,
for a long time. And
but it's still under 100,000 miles, please.
And so one thing that happens, just so you understand, Linda obviously does a great job out with her students on FFA trips, on conventions and different shows, state fair, all the stuff. And then also Mr. Elder has his construction classes and he has his residential carpentry class that goes out daily to work on job sites. And so they end up using this vehicle together, and so there's always a conflict. If Linda's gone, then they're always trying to figure it out. And so this would be an opportunity to get a second ag vehicle. This would be for Linda and her students. Ryan with Mr. Elder would then take over the truck. And so one of the things we kind of got into when discussing this is it gets really hard with used vehicles, especially because you see one out there, and then obviously it's hard depending on when our board meeting's scheduled, and then whether we're gonna take 1 month to approve or 2 months to approve. And so what we're requesting is a range of dollars that we could go out and have the blessing of the board to go out and buy those two vehicles because they're both gonna be used. It's a little easier when you're doing a new vehicle because you can get a quote from a dealership that is connected to lots of different things and they can bring one in for you. But in this case, we'd like to do a range. The ADA vans are pretty expensive. I know all used vehicles are expensive right now, but the way those are set up, we're looking at trying to get a used vehicle. You had a couple examples to look at in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, so we were requesting that range amount. And then for the ag vehicle, also part of the Patterson grant that I just discussed with the greenhouse, that you approved in your last meeting, there is a little over $37,000 that is part of that is set aside for the ag vehicle and CTE. And so we're requesting kind of a $35,000 to $45,000 range to go out and purchase that, and with obviously 37 of that already being budgeted through that grant. So that's up for discussion tonight. I just want the permission or the approval to go out and go shopping for those things.
I make a motion, we allow.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah, questions?
I didn't know if you had any questions or anything, that's why I kinda stuck around.
Okay. I make a motion that we,
thank you.
give Mr. Hatfield and the people involved in the vehicles permission to shop for these vehicles, not to exceed the amount requested.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same.
Thank you very much.
Next thing is substitute handbook.
Yes, you had the substitute handbook in front of you in July and approved that. Since then, as part of the negotiations process, there's been discussion about putting some language in there that's specifically tied to the different substitutes that we have and their current pay rates. And so we included additional language in there for you to look at. And we're wanting to possibly run that back through. And also bring up, I know this came up as a thing last year, we think that as far as our market, we're about $10 a day less on from other districts on substitute pay, and so adding $10 per day would be a help to our subs as well. We do not have that specifically written in the handbook, but I wanted to mention that to you tonight, just so you're aware of where we're at. And that would be about a $15,000 increase to the district if that was approved at some point tonight or in the future. And so just wanting to run the sub handbook back through with those items, additional language in there.
Are there any questions?
Yes. So, and I've questioned this before. Under the salary, under assigned vacancy, special education substitute teacher,
Yes.
that's a totally new substitute area, I guess. It's different, and it's $175 a day, which ends up, I just think, being $31,000, which the board had we never approved that. And I want to understand why a special education substitute would make more, because special education teachers don't make more. So I don't know why a substitute would make more than a regular classroom substitute. And I think it should have had board approval before we hired people at this rate. We approved, like we will or will not approve a $10 raise. We approved having 5 sick days last year instead of raising the rate. So obviously it's something the board should have been notified about, discussed. But just an explanation in the first place why it would be, special education sub would need more money than a regular education sub.
I think the only reason that we made that decision, whether that went in front of the board, I don't remember. I'm not gonna say that I do.
I don't think it did.
And yeah, that's fine. I'm not gonna say that it did. That may be a decision we made along the way that didn't go there, and I'll take that criticism. As far as we have trouble enough, every district has trouble enough finding special education teachers in general, let alone people who are willing to come in and be that long-term sub for those classrooms, and so that decision was made based off of that. Pat, you and I have discussed this, and you saying that that a regular teacher and a special education teacher are on the same pay scale on a normal level is absolutely right. I have no argument to that. I totally agree with you. It was just an attempt to try to find subs. That's all it was. So I don't have any excuses or anything like that. I'm just saying it as it is. So that's where we're at.
Okay, well, I just think it should be, I don't think we should change anyone's pay that's currently making that, but I think it should be back to $250 a day, and I think it needs to be noticed that, we had nothing to do with that. And I just think it's something that the board approves and we did not approve it. And since we're on the same subject, where did you find the $10 more that schools were about $10 off from substitute pay? What schools?
The usual ones that we track.
Because our people aren't gonna go sub there. You need to call Conway Springs, Belle Plaine, Oxford, South Haven, the places where our people would go sub, and it's $100 a day or a little bit less.
Okay.
Because I've subbed there, I've called them, I know $100 a day is pretty, for our area. So, comparing to the schools that we usually compare to, wouldn't really apply because we're not gonna go, someone's not gonna go sub there.
Okay.
But like you said, this is just a look it over thing, I guess.
Yeah, this is just a discussion item, so we don't have to do anything today. So, do we wanna bring this back next month?
Yeah.
And decide if we're gonna approve the raise or not and everything?
And I don't think any district pays more for a special education substitute. In our area, at least, I don't know what the ones that we compare us to do.
Is there any other questions about that? Okay. Guess we'll move on and we'll see it next month.
Sounds good.
The next thing is the security grant.
Yes, the district qualified for the KSD matching security grant that has been, I think they may have skipped 1 year, but for several years now, that has been a regular grant that has been out there. That is approved by the legislature for dollars that districts can seek out. And so we were approved for $22,000 of the matching grant to upgrade our security across the district. And so in your packets, you received bids from Sandifer, who is our company that would have originally put all our stuff in. And so that's why you're getting it specifically from that company, because that's who we're connected to. And so we have about, if the board, with getting all of those done for each of the building, it ends up being around $30,000 from the district and $22,000 then from the matching grant for making that happen. So it's not a perfect 22 match, but gets the things we need done and get a lot of that back anyway. So that is up for discussion this evening.
I read through all the, can you just share exactly what we're gonna do?
Sure.
Because, there's just lots of language.
Yeah, lots of camera security upgrades, some camera replacements, and then also moving some things around that our principals felt like instead of paying for a new camera, if you just moved this one to here, then that would work. And then also, as you know, we have the door access badges, and so adding some of those to some doors that don't currently have it. Just mostly those upgrades for the most part, along with obviously the hardware stuff that's involved in that. Yeah, it is pretty simple. Yep.
Is this something that needs to be voted on?
No, this is something that when you guys decide you're comfortable, then we will.
So we're not gonna lose the grant, it's not on the timeline?
The grant
Okay.
is not on time.
Yep,
No.
okay.
Maybe within the year.
23-24 school year.
Okay.
But not on an immediate timeline, no. Unless unless you're a principal, and then you're like, good luck, cameras. So, but no, we're good.
Any other questions on that, or?
Where does the 30,000 come from?
Cap outlay. So do we wanna make this an action item next month?
We sure can.
Is that what we wanna do?
Give you a little more time with it.
The next thing is enrollment numbers.
Just a second.
Okay.
Okay. So after, obviously, we have September 20th count date, and so each October I report the enrollment numbers to the board, and so we have two less students for this year than we did last year, so holding pretty steady after our increase last year, which was good. So I just wanted to get that in front of the board for any discussion. This came up today, just so you're aware. If you look at some of the state numbers, sometimes they don't match up with this because they include at-risk preschool students and preschool students on IEPs. Our money currently flows to futures on that, and so sometimes when you see the enrollment data, it will include that on a lot of state sites. What I've been reporting to the board over the years, since that's been kind of flow-through money, is just our K through 12 students, to kind of get an idea where K through 12 is. But I can absolutely add the preschool stuff in the future on that document if you'd like us to. So I just wanted to put that out for information, basically, and any discussion tonight.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on. Athletic facilities.
Okay, two things. We have, last month I reported that the locker room situation, or the locker room committee's work was with the architect and is still with the architect, but we received word that we should be getting something back within a week or so. And so that should be coming here pretty soon. And then also in your packets, one of the things that the district or the board had talked about, I know the board voted at some point to keep our grass field if we stayed at the stadium. And so DCS put out bids to give you an idea of what it would be like to reconstruct the grass field from where it is now to obviously leveling the ground, redoing irrigation, redoing all the things. And so those bids are in there for you to look at. And that's really information for the board or whatever you choose to do with it. We can kind of, as far as the board's thoughts, you have two things coming up. You have obviously, if this is something you want to move forward to as far as this board, then that's a discussion you can have. If definitely, but when the new board gets here in January, we will begin with that board discussing whether they want to move forward with talking about bond dollars when the high school's paid off. That'll be a discussion for the new board, and so this is also something that could be pushed to discuss with the new board so that they had the option to, put this with bond dollars instead of capital outlay dollars. So that's kind of your two thought processes here, but this gives you the idea of where you're at on making that change. One of the good things that came up in that discussion is, as you know, the grass on the practice football field over at the track has been talked about for a long time. We do not have we haven't had an irrigation system over there. One of the things that these companies have talked about is the potential of pulling this sod off and taking it over there and possibly redoing that field. So that could come up in future conversations as well. So that's something that we didn't think about that was a positive that came out of those discussions. So that's just out there for discussion this evening.
On these bids, this Deemer,
Deemer, I believe it is, yeah.
it said sod's included, but yet on the DCS bid, it says extra sod is $20,000.
I believe Brett just put that in as a holding place in case if they needed additional sod on top of,
That's what I thought.
isn't that what, yeah?
Yeah.
Additional.
Yeah.
Basically, the concrete cutting and patching may not have to happen, and the extra sod may not have to happen, so you can conceivably looking at $30,000 less than that total number if everything goes right.
Yes, thank you. And by the way, facility committee met on this last week, and Brandon and Tom were here with Brett to discuss that, so. Yeah, that's right.
So, but there will be new sod.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
New irrigation, new sod.
yeah, he wanted to put that in just in case that's a backup if we need it.
If we need
Rather
more
than go,
sod.
rather than
Yeah,
going back
we're gonna
into
be
it.
hauling out dirt,
Yeah.
but they threw this in there just kind of just as a safety net. And the
If
chance that we needed more, but we,
If we need more than they
It's
planned
it's
it
budgeted
originally.
in, right.
Then they said they would reduce the cost if so. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Sorry.
You said they put things down over the concrete to help protect it, but sometimes it doesn't work and they would come through and that's what the $10,000 rework would be. They'd come through and fix the concrete that they tore out.
they're gonna be going over the sidewalks to get in and out of the field, so it's gonna bust them up. They're afraid. There's a chance of it.
So you have numbers now, so that's good, information wise.
It's still pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think it came in less than everybody was expecting.
Did I miss when they would be able to do this?
I don't. Did they put on bids when they,
I think
what
it
their
was,
timeline was?
it would have
I
to
know it
be
was for
season.
next, yeah, I know it was before next season, but
Okay.
like I said,
So would it be
that's-
ready by next season, or would we need to?
No, I believe it would be ready by next season, if the board voted on it now. Like I said, that's kind of the decision on whether this is something that gets pushed to discuss. Whether you want it to be potential a bond project, or whether you want it to be out of capital outlay. That's kind of the decision this board needs to make. The bond discussions won't really,
So
it
a
doesn't make a lot
bond-
of sense until the new board gets here, so.
So bond, you'd have to vote, and you'd have to get money in it, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, you'd have to go through the whole election
Yeah, we're not
process. and all
talking
that stuff.
next year probably,
no.
No, it would, I would not count on next year for that.
and it'd probably be no, so.
Any more questions? This is just discussion.
So on the other bids where it had the 58,000 for the sod, would that also include the 20,000 extra too? Or no?
I think they just made it straight out.
Yeah, I don't think that was, from what I understand, that 20,000 was something that Brett had added.
To
cover us,
To every
So you'd
bid.
have to add 20,000 to everything plus the 10,000 for the concrete work.
And I could also have Brett come in and.
Yeah, could we make sure on the how much sod everybody's bidding, I guess?
They're bidding the same amount.
Yeah, is it the same amount that they're bidding square foot wise or?
Well, and some aren't doing the sod, like if you see that one, just a sprinkler system. And this one didn't do any dirt work, they just did the sod and the sprinkler
I
system
think there's really only two bids. We're looking
Yeah, there's only two of them.
without pieces
I don't
out.
think you're
There
right,
would be
because they're not
three,
doing a whole
yeah.
bunch of.
There's only two bids that we're looking at. Yeah, I'd like to know what the square foot of the sod that each one of them bid.
That's what it is.
That, what is it, Allen's? That's really the only two, Deaver and Allen's.
I think Allen's did not bid sod. I think they got their sod bid from Cedars in Wichita.
I'd still like to know the square footage
Yeah.
on on their sod.
Okay.
To make sure that we've got the same amount on the sod.
Sure.
That'd be interesting if they're way off or way different.
Any other questions?
I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you didn't see 60 Minutes last night, we're talking to two different kinds of buildings for the lockers. And one is 3D printing. Great
They had it on
story.
there?
Did you see it, anybody?
I did.
Oh,
It was
it's
cool.
great. It is so cool, 3D printing. So, just a little educational there if you record 60 Minutes. The first 2 episodes are pretty good too, but you can fast forward to the last episode. That is a pick.
Okay,
It's really cool.
Coming high school.
we'll see that next month, and then on to open enrollment policies.
Yes, so, and this may or may not be something that we wanna schedule a, separate meeting on. That's always an option, cause it can be kinda complicated, but, wanted to bring it up tonight. I said last month that we would, bring this up tonight. By January first, legislature is requiring districts to adopt, open enrollment policies for non-resident students. And so, so that comes into play with the restructuring talks that we have had over the last several years that kind of got put on hold these last couple months, or these last couple years with the legislature, us needing to be able to see what the legislature was going to do with this. And so we put together some language that is in your packet for 2 different enrollment options for the district. One being if the board continues to want to stick with our neighborhood school model and how that might look. If we were to allow for transfers within the district and then also for non-resident students to be able to apply for spots in the district. And then the other one, which was a old board topic as well, is policies if the board chose to change the elementary system to attendance centers and how that would look policy-wise if that went through. And so those have both been discussions throughout this board's tenure. And so we wrote up kind of 2 policies to kind of combo both what the legislature has put together and have expectations for boards, but also tried to combo that with some of those local discussions that we have had along the way as well. And so, I don't know if a planning session is better for this or what the board feels is good for this discussion, but just want to be able to provide as much information to you as we can, and I'll also take feedback on the policies that were put in front of you. So, what thoughts do you have as far as discussion, or whether this is something that would be better to have its own meeting since it's kind of a big topic?
I like the idea of a planning session.
Okay.
I do too.
That'll give us a chance to isolate this and discuss them. So I can send out dates for a planning session to tackle this one.
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Okay. Okay. I will send dates out and see what. We purposefully put 3 months together for this, like I said last meeting, so we just have to be done with this work by the end of December, for January 1st. We have to be approved by January 1st. We will also need to have according to the legislative language, we'll also need to have a hearing on this one, a public hearing, just so you know when we're done with the work.
So
So I'll get that out there.
with this, everything that we need to do is making the decision if we want to change our boundaries or implement
So the very,
attendance centers. Is this part of that?
yes. So
Okay.
if you read through the 2 documents, one of it is set up language-wise as if you were continuing in neighborhood schools.
Okay.
and some tweaks that have been changed amongst that. And there are some boundary line changes within that, not within our community, but expanding out. And so you can look at that, and then the other one is written as if the district was changing to attendance centers. So either way, it gets all the policy in that the legislative required for non-resident students. So.
For something like this, I would like to hear from as many parents about this as possible. I really want to take into consideration everyone's feelings on this and the good and the bad on them.
Sure.
Is there any way that we can post these policies, like
Yep.
how it would look either way?
We were planning on it.
Okay,
anyway, so,
and then
yeah,
We would love your feedback
Yes.
on what you guys really would like to have for your students.
Yeah, and Russ and I had that
That sounds
discussion. With this being new, we're trying to be respectful of the board and put it out there first, but Russ can put it out there tonight for that matter.
I thought we had the discussion, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, on attendance centers when we met, had the meetings at the high school and the surveys and the schools. I just thought we ruled out attendance, this board did.
Yeah, but it all kind of died at the same time.
Yeah, the whole thing died.
Yeah, so it was,
It was just because the legislation came up and we were waiting on all of that. So, yeah, but like I said, there's multiple options there, so it's.
What happens at, you said we have to hold a public hearing?
Yes, we will have to hold a public.
What happens at that?
It's just like your budget hearing or your R&R hearing, you just have to open
Oh.
the discussion up for the community
I see.
to give their opinion if they choose to. So, just a public hearing.
and we would have that hearing like way in advance of making a decision. So
You
we
would
could
want
hear
to.
We had
yes.
2
You would want
months.
to, yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah, you would want to. So we can talk about that at the planning session.
This has to be
first.
done before January.
Yeah, I know, I mean, with the holidays, everyone just kind
Yeah.
of shuts down anyway,
Yep,
so I just don't wanna be sitting here trying to have a hearing
Yep.
the third week of December.
Right, I agree. Yeah, the sooner we can get it done, the better off you'll be, so.
Any other questions on that? Okay, so 2.8, approve the conference for Adam.
okay,
And that's just a discussion item.
I just took it off, I mean, I just wanted to discuss it if it was really a necessary thing.
What is it, I guess?
It is the National Conference on Education, National Superintendent's Conference. And so lots of superintendents from the state go. USA Kansas, who is the state administration group, puts together different networking pieces and then vendors and they set up things. So you go but it's funny because the different states put their groups together. You're kind of with your state as you're attending things, which is really neat. So it really gives you an opportunity to talk and network and then it's the national conference, so it's huge and it's the presentations are always amazing and drives your brain and
Sure.
It's just a good conference. I have been. I went the first time the year before COVID, and then it was canceled for COVID, and then I've been to the last 2 or 3 since then. It's just I look forward to it every year. It's a really neat conference.
I don't know why we wouldn't send you, if it's gonna better for everything else, it's kind of done.
What we always put in that July consent agenda is it specifically states if there's any national conferences, the superintendent can put one of our administrators on there or whatever, but it also states, that only if budget works. So if Darcy says no, then Darcy says no.
I remember seeing that from
Yeah.
one of the previous.
I do too.
I just think it should go on to the new boards that's coming in instead of us approving it, so. It's not until
Do we
February,
know how much,
mid-February,
do we know the
so.
cost? Just,
Well, I wouldn't even look at flights and stuff until after you guys.
Yeah, but you make last minute getting flights.
Yeah, I know, that's the
Still,
only-
yeah,
so-
well, I mean,
That's the
sure you
reason it was out
looked.
there now.
You haven't looked at all what a flight would be?
I've not, because if we find out it's too expensive, then Darcy will say it's not gonna happen, so. So that's, it's just set up to go, and if it doesn't work, then we're not gonna make a bad decision, so.
Is this the thing that you're, like vice president elect or
No,
something?
that's the superintendent's council here in the state, so, a lot of the same people will be there.
Yeah.
So,
I would make a motion that we approve sending add them to the ASA National Conference in San Diego, February 15th, 17th, 2024.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No,
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
On to administrative reports.
So we, I don't know if you saw our Fast Bridge data, we've shown real growth in that. We took the fast track reading and fast track math, and so that was a new test for our kids. Usually they just take A reading, A math, and so we were able to gain more information on their automaticity and some of their skills that they have there, and that'll be beneficial meeting or information for us when we meet with Tazen. And we've also had the chance to already look through that information in our professional learning and really work with what trends we're seeing and things like that. And we'll meet with BLT tomorrow night to discuss how we start intervention. So
Can you just share what the fast track, I know what the fast track is, but we always talk about taking fast bridge test, but the fast track.
So fast track is just a combination of the two tests. So in math, that's the A reading, and then they saw it's the CBM3 geometry test, and that I also put that family report in there so you could see the description of what those were. And so that instead of taking the automaticity for math separately in a different test, it combines them together, and then it does the same thing for reading. So it checks on phonemic awareness and things like that with the automaticity side. Very good information, and it's exciting that our teachers are getting to see it and getting to work with it and identify trends they're seeing. So.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to
I do
board
have some
member
que-
comments.
We'll just get through it and then I'll have some questions to JJ, but let's move on.
Okay, board member comments.
Oh, nobody said anything else? Well, I was excited in Lincoln's report that you guys had a site council meeting already. So, I really think that's great. I kind of always think we should keep up on site councils. And has anybody else had a site council meeting yet?
Ours is scheduled for Friday.
Do you have it in the daytime, just call?
So since it's a work day, I scheduled it for Friday since I'll have teachers in the building, but it
I'm
just
just
kind of
curious.
depends. We usually do a luncheon.
Yeah.
Brandon's on my side council.
And, okay, okay.
We hold ours at 7:00 in the evening.
You have pretty good attendance, I mean, people,
We normally do this time, we had some people out of town, but
and then I was looking at your, I this is just for me, cause I have no idea, how do we, in your head count and everything, the bilingual, who helps with that?
when they fill out their enrollment form, the parents check boxes and that's what we go by.
So,
If they don't check the box, then we don't know.
okay.
And then based off of that, we try to get them ESOL services if they need it, and with their screen, to see if they need those services, and then if it is determined through the screening that they do need extra services, then those services are provided.
That's just kind of like, I think the rest of my question, how are student-led conferences? How are they gonna be, you said they'd be with the first hour teacher, since there was no crew con?
So they're with their connections teacher, and so we have, each of our students has a connections teacher, and we do an alternate schedule. We've done 2 already for them to meet with their connections teacher and get those things moving. And so they have a meeting on the 10th, and almost all of them are scheduled already. Russ put out a flyer for us on all of our social media sites, and our students took time during that to call their parents or to email their parents and get those sites set up. So, or not the sites, sorry, the dates set up. And so in that vein, our counselors have also almost met with our entire student body to talk about their checklist for their individual plan of study, which they'll talk about at student-led conferences as well.
Can you explain the paper that says there's no crew con, because they got a grade in crew con. So now, instead of a grade in crew con, they're gonna be graded on their conference.
So they're
Like if
filling
you
out
and I
a,
have, me and my mom are there.
Right.
And my, whatever person, teacher's right here,
Uh-huh.
is that teacher going to grade me on how I'm leading my conference?
so there's a rubric that they used last year for the parent, for the teacher, and for the student to fill out. And then that will go into their individual plan of study record, which will be a post-secondary asset. It's the board met, the KSDE met, and approved post-secondary assets. And so we're also looking at moving into using that in our what is it called? We used to do senior interviews.
Are we still gonna do
yeah.
those?
Yes, yeah, and so their portfolio they put together, they would have all of the resumes and cover letters and all those things. And then you'd have those documents, because you have to prove that you've talked about your plan of study and about your education with your parents and have those conversations. So they have those two opportunities every year, and that would go into that document that they would take with them as they finish in the
And if they don't
post-secondary
have, they have to have that document completed, filled out before they can graduate.
Well, that would be for you all to
Well,
decide,
that's
but
just what
that's
I'm
part
hearing,
of
that's what
the,
I'm hearing from teachers, is
that would be the
they were
part of
told.
that post-secondary asset that we would like to have together. To bring validity to the plan and also to, there's that STAR award that you can get as a school for the individual plan of study. And so that would help us check those boxes as well.
So nobody's been told that they have to have that for graduation.
Not yet. No, we've talked about it in PD, that
Okay.
this is what we're looking at making it in the future. And so it's in talks, but nobody's been told they can't graduate without that.
Okay. What about, if you're not there? If my mom does, there's surely kids that don't show up
There are.
and the parents don't show up.
And so even last year,
So
when
you do it
kids
with,
didn't show up, they sit with me, Audrey, one of our counselors, and they go through that. And we do that so they make sure they get that done.
so are we having student, parent, teacher, student-led conferences to share with the parent grades and how they're doing, or are we having them to judge our students on interview skills?
So the student-led conferences are an opportunity for students to talk with their parents about their FastBridge scores. So they're gonna have the family report to talk about their parents about and share that information. Would also go over their IXL report, which they've downloaded, and talk with their parents about their achievement on that. Talk about their goals, talk about how their grades are, and then give them time to show artifacts that say, hey, I really did well in this, I'm really proud of this, I want to share that with you.
So how long are these conferences?
They are right at 20 minutes. And so there's a script for them to follow that moves through it pretty quickly, and it's really a holistic conversation.
I just know the boards we've talked about before. Did we do a survey or something at enrollment or at conferences? Anybody remember talking about that? To see what parents thought?
On student-led conferences. Jim, do you remember that at all?
We talked about
We'd have to
that.
look it up, I don't
Okay.
I don't remember that right off.
And then, the other thing is ag classes. Some ag classes are no longer counted as a science credit.
Alright, so in the email, you asked about that, if we were counting those. And so when the board added a fourth science teacher, we were meeting and looking at how we structure our progression of learning, right? So there's that thing kids can look at, the enrollment guide, so if you take this, then you can go to these things. And in talking about that, and looking at what's on the state assessment and the future things they would need for that in order to do this state assessment, they decided that when we type,
Who's they?
so Mr. Ginter, myself, Ms. Bristow, those were the ones that we had currently returning at the time. And so we sat down and we looked at, here are the things we would need to do well on that state assessment. We need to offer earth and space science, we need to offer physical science.
Space science?
Earth and space. We need to offer earth and space science, we need to offer physical science, more sections of that, so that those kids get those things, because there is physical science on that state test, and now there are earth and space science on it as well. and there's life science on it. And
I would
so
hate to think that we're
we have to give our
basing
kids,
it on a state test.
but in order to do well on it, I believe that we have to give our kids experience with that. And so if we don't give our kids experience in those classes and they come against those questions and they don't know those things, that is not fair to them.
And you're wanting them to take chemistry, what are you, chemistry, biology, what's your plan of action for the 4 years?
So it depends on where you come in. Some students come in and they're ready for biology. And so those students that are ready for biology and want to complete the pre-college admissions would take chemistry, or take biology, chemistry, and physics. If that's what they want to do for automatic admittance, and they're looking at completing that Board of Regents stuff. If we have other kids that come in that aren't ready for that, then we look at where their ability falls with what their 8th grade science teacher says and their recommendations. And they have an option if they start in physical science or in earth and space science. And so if you start in either of those, you can then move to the other one the next year, and then the 3rd credit would be biology. Because the group, the teachers, and I believe that finishing with biology is a goal for our building, that we get kids through biology before they graduate.
I just don't understand why we're taking away ag as a credit. I mean,
It's not being removed as a credit,
if I
just one
take, I don't know what ag classes you have, if I take horticulture, if I take plant science, or if I take animal science, I cannot count that as one of my science credits. Yes or
So
no? Yes or no?
the kids have already taken it, yes.
But the freshmen this year,
Freshmen, we did not,
but they'd already enrolled.
but they were all in the science class and if they wanted to be an ag, they're an ag.
But do we have kids that took ag classes as their science credit?
Not as freshmen.
Nobody's
Not
in,
this year's
nobody's in
freshmen.
ag class?
Nobody's not in an ag class, but not in a science class. The kids who wanted ag took ag, and we
If they
made sure that they're also in a science class. Yes, if it was.
If they took an ag science class that was considered a credit, freshman, are there any freshmen in a class like that? Yeah, are there any freshmen in a class?
Yes, there are freshmen in
Okay,
animal science,
And
there
so
are freshmen in
before that
horticulture.
was counted as a credit in science. But
Before we had
now,
the 4th teacher.
but now it's not.
It's just a decision that we had dual enrolled them because we wanted them to meet through that path. So yes, at this moment, we decided that, hey, we've got that 4th teacher that you added.
But that 4th teacher,
And-
didn't we add that 4th teacher as an ag person, as to help with ag?
This is just timing for JJ, cause he wasn't here the year before. So we've always had 4 science teachers, and then we couldn't find a science teacher. We got a ag teacher that was doing kind of a combo deal. Then we decided that we needed to add a second ag teacher, which is another thing. Linda, we're killing a lot of things for you right now. We added a second ag teacher, and then that allowed that science teacher to come back. JJ's just saying it that way because he wasn't here the year before, and so he sees it differently just from the time.
Okay,
he's
when-
been here.
which
That's
makes
all.
it-
When we had them approved as science credits years ago, I think you may have been principal at that time. That was, it was a long time ago. We had 4 science teachers.
And you
then,
came to
too.
the board to get that approved?
Yeah.
Okay, so to not,
Because KSDE had approved those
Yeah,
classes.
KSDE.
so not, to take those away as a science credit, the board should make that decision.
Okay.
But you do have freshmen right now enrolled in those classes that thought it was gonna be a credit, and now it's not.
No.
You just said you did.
No, I have kids enrolled in both classes. So, for example, there's kids who are taking animal science and they're in earth and space science, or they're in horticulture or greenhouse something, I can't remember all the names right now, and they're in biology,
So explain why earth and science,
earth and space.
earth and space is gonna be more beneficial to me than horticulture or animal science, which I obviously have an interest in and have no interest in space.
I'm not saying it's more beneficial.
But because it's on the test, is what you're saying.
But it's our opportunity to provide kids what we're testing, yes. But I'm not saying they shouldn't take the other ones either.
Now, next year, KSDE says that we'll have to take Earth and space science.
Okay.
And I sent you that,
Yeah,
what
but
they
there's
were
other things.
gonna do. So that's for next, starting next year's
So-
freshmen.
You can make sure they take biology, you should make sure they take what KSD says they have to take. But I still feel that is science.
So you're just wanting them to have the opportunity to still get the credit for the ag
Yes.
science stuff, just don't take that away.
Don't take that away, especially when they're freshmen and they enrolled and then you took it away after they enrolled. And it should be a board decision. And we shouldn't expect every person to take chemistry and all of those other things that you're saying, because I don't even know what they are.
And so
I'm
just for
pretty productive, and I
clarification,
took algebra 2 and that was it. I never took chemistry. I took college biology at night when I student taught, credit, no credit. So,
so just to clarify, I didn't say that I don't want kids to not have to take chemistry, physics and all that. I didn't say that. There's a path to get through biology that we've established at the school because we feel like every kid that leaves our building needs to have biology. And so if you start in biology, your next options are chemistry and physics. That's the normal
but if I start in
progression.
biology and I don't wanna take chemistry and physics,
Right.
what are my other choices?
So then you can go backward and take physical science and go backward and take those classes. But we want every kid to finish with biology.
Are you calling it going backwards because you want biology taken as a senior?
No. It's just in the progression they have.
Is
The
it going
progression that
backwards
teachers have
because-
made out.
Explain why it's going backwards. Is it going backwards because I'm not?
Cause they want you to have biology, but they're not pushing physical or physics or chemistry. So if you don't wanna take physics or chemistry, you can take the other science
To get
options.
your credits.
And so backwards is just not it's just a different path on the paper they put. So I'm sorry.
So it's not backwards. Backwards make me think
Yes,
somebody
sorry.
like me
I
is not
misspoke.
smart because I'm taking,
Right. I misspoke.
but I do think we're making decisions that should be and have always been the board's decision. If we're gonna start doing that, taking things out of the board's hand, then
Guess I was unaware of that, so I'm sorry.
so are we going to have it as a science classes? I mean, are we gonna have ag classes as a credit or not? Or is that something we need to talk about?
We can. I didn't know we couldn't change it, so just I'll do it.
Do you wanna add it for discussion for next month?
Well, does anybody else think it's our position to do that, or can?
Well, I would have liked to know that these changes were being made. I mean, I didn't know anything about
I mean,
KSD was
it's a credit for,
changing things.
it's a credit for graduation, and we've set those, we add them, we take them away.
Mhm.
So,
Let's
And
put it
you
for a
guys-
discussion item.
you wouldn't even know.
No.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like it to be a discussion item.
Got it.
Okay, now you guys learned at home, but I think that's all.
Andrea?
Just a reminder about the KASB convention next month. I'm excited.
Tom?
I don't have anything.
I'm good.
Appreciate the principal sending out those reports, it's really helpful, especially when we don't have kids in your building, I do appreciate that. And also, it's a good time for sports right now, cross country and with the tennis and football, they played a pretty good game last week, so.
I was just gonna echo on the football, they're having their season really turned around and they look really good, so I'm very happy and proud for them kids. They put in the work and you can see it, so good for them.
Okay, on to executive session.
Make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel for 20 minutes to include Adam Hatfield and Dr. Kern. The regular meeting will resume at 7:45 p.m.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I haven't decided on one.
This is hard. Yes. My twin sister just moved to California. She is nothing like that.
Okay, we are back in open session and we're moving on to the consent agenda.
Okay, consent agenda. Approve the minutes of the September 11th budget hearing, R&R hearing, and regular meeting, and the September 14th special meeting. Approve payroll and bills. Payroll, $498,194.39. Bills, $1,046,877.99. Personnel, approved new hires. Joseph Fisher, drama teachers play to high school. Caitlin Hain, assistant wrestling coach, high school. Todd Larkey, debate coach and esports coach at the high school. Kylie Bonnell, social worker, Kennedy. Kathleen Sinclair, bus para, central office. Shaylin French, sped para at the high school. Cheryl DeHaven, para at WCA. Aubrey Mason, para at Lincoln. And Dixie Pennington, para at WCA. Approve resignations. Todd Larkey, drama teacher plays, high school. Makia Folger, assistant wrestling coach, high school. Kimberly Whitson, para at WCA. Elizabeth Zimmerman, para at Washington. Brittany Nepper, 7th grade girls basketball coach, middle school. Ashlyn Whaley, 7th grade girls basketball coach, middle school. Amanda Chapman, para at Lincoln. And Riley Clark, para at Lincoln.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay. Meeting adjourned.